So I'm definitely excited to be here. And now, if you're wondering what's going on here, uh, there's another screen that's missing. Rosie's out for now. And Bree, I always think I was like, okay, we did this last year. There was a couple of shows where it was just you and I, a couple of shows where it's just me and Ro. And so I was literally wondering. I was like, when is that time going to come where I'm going to be with Bree, and it's just going to be Bree and me? And here we are today, right?
You manifested it without even knowing.
Well, the reason why we're here today, and we're going to do a deep dive on high performance habits, and you can really thank Bree for that because she said to me, she said, "Look, I really think this is dense, and we need to revisit this rather than moving on." And so, Bree, I just want to thank you for introducing that idea because it's true. We can read this stuff, but do we really have we internalized it and made it a part of our lives? That's the question. And if we keep skipping over curriculum or just reading stuff for the sake of it, then we might just get used to that, right? So, how we do things and how we incorporate those things into our lives really matters, right?
No. I'm excited for this because there's I feel like in whenever we get to talk and get together, there's so many good points. And I find myself like, okay, I can write everything down, I can think of everything, but am I implementing this in my everyday life? And if I don't, I would like to take a step back so that I can truly understand. So that way, you know, all of this good knowledge isn't going just whoosh in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're around to help me with that because I sometimes do read stuff because it becomes fun to read.
Yeah.
And so I have a great mentor, and he's like, "Hey, you're doing a lot of reading, but where is it at? Where is it going? And have you done anything with it?" And he's not much of a reader, but he's still successful. So that just goes to show that sometimes we don't necessarily have to read a whole lot. Sometimes it's what are we acting on. And to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff has been said over thousands of years, right? We have Aristotle, we have Epictetus, we have all these great brains that thought of all these things, Marcus Aurelius. And so we think of these things and they're not new. They're really a part of who we are. And you don't have to be taught this stuff to really know it, but we want to create that environment where we can have these conversations and grow together as a community. So I'm really happy that we're doing this.
Me too.
Yeah. And ultimately, you know what I really took away from this book?
Hmm.
That people that are more joyful actually end up succeeding at a higher level.
Hmm.
So, and it's about ultimately finding that level of joy in our work and in our being, and with our family and our friends.
Hmm.
And I really like Brendan Burchard. I like his mindset because he was talking about how people isolate themselves for success. And I remember doing this too. It's like I have to cut all these people off because they're not thinking the way I'm thinking and I need to get somewhere quickly. And so I really like his mindset and reinforcing the idea that it's not about cutting people off in our lives. It's actually about building new relationships and getting out there and being in relationship with people who cause us to like stretch ourselves,
Yeah.
you
Or
know?
I also think fostering the relationships that you have too. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that to be honest, I think that whenever COVID happened in 2020, a lot of people retreated back just because you had to. And
Mhm.
then as a society, we got used to maybe not having these interactions and not seeing each other or being on a Zoom, right? This became the new normal.
Yeah.
And I just went to an expo last week where we were looking at all of the inventory in the greater Austin area, and I saw so many like different builder friends that I knew or like inspectors that I knew, and it was really good to be able to connect with them and then to be like, "Oh man, okay, you're in this community now." And be able to really understand what they have going on, right? And I don't know, it's just really cool to connect with people and not be just on the phone. Okay, this is business, 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 but to really interact with them. I don't know. I
It
don't know if
sounds
I'm making
really
sense. Just
yeah.
sparked
It's
something.
it's a collaboration, it almost sounds like.
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
spirit of collaboration, right?
I think the spirit of collaboration and helping build each other up is why we were put on this earth.
You know, I'm so glad you said that because sometimes what ends up happening is I have friends and myself included. I might go somewhere and think, well, man, I could have been doing something totally better. I didn't need to be here right now. Maybe the conversation is not at the level we want it to be. And I'm kind of this one quote from the Bible, or I guess I'm pretty sure Jesus said this, and maybe you can help me. I didn't even look it up. I just assumed it, right? Is to be to be in the world, but not of the world.
Mm,
Is that how it said?
yeah.
Yeah. And so
I
what
don't know the exact quote, but yeah, you don't wanna be of the world.
you don't want to be of the world, right? And so what that really was telling me was that some people could be so accomplished and but socially awkward because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be experiencing that. They're having to dumb themselves down. I have friends who are really intelligent, but when we put them in a room with lesser intelligence people, they kind of are feeling like it's a total waste of time. You know, you've met those people before?
Mhm, mhm,
And so, like, that's their biggest battle. They become socially a little socially awkward.
yeah,
And so, and I think that's why we can't really isolate ourselves, and that's how we extract more out of our lives.
yeah.
And so Brendan talks about this idea about meaning, creating meaning in the world. And so meaning is actually enthusiasm, connection. That's what we're talking about right now. So enthusiasm, connection, satisfaction, and coherence. And let me see if I could pull those up on the screen because I know that's a lot. And then we can maybe take a look at each one of those and see what they mean to you. Right?
So all of this is what meaning is?
Yeah, that's what meaning is. And having meaning allows us to like navigate life a lot better. And because people who isolate themselves have reported to feel like there's no meaning to anything that they've done, right?
Mhm,
That's what happens from isolating ourselves.
yeah,
And so he's talking about as a method of creating more clarity in our world, it's important that we have the right meaning because clarity is the first habit. And along with that, he also talks about satisfaction. How will we ever know we're satisfied if we haven't articulated it? So, what we're passionate about, if we're experiencing some growth and having an opportunity to give back.
I like this right here. It's passion plus growth
Mhm.
plus contribution. I think too often people just think, "Oh, you have to be passionate about something." Well, you can be passionate about something, but if you're not growing and if you're not contributing and giving back, you're never going to be satisfied.
Yeah, it's going to be an endless cycle.
Yeah,
And you're right. Take any one of those out, and it's not whole.
and you're not satisfied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can be passionate and have the growth, but if you're not contributing and giving back, what is the true meaning? You're not gonna find it. You're gonna have that hole in your heart.
And I'm going to invite us to think about this, what he said, which really blew my mind. He said, not all of them have to be happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So I could be passionate about something, and then I can start asking the question, what can I grow into? Now, if this was a golden nugget for me, and I hope it is for you and anyone who's watching, is that there's an idea of high performers, and naturally, if there's high performers, there's also underperformers. And so high performers will look at they're really in tune with their feelings. And you know, living in a society where we say, "Oh, don't worry about your feelings, get over it." High performers are really big into the feeling aspect of things. And
Mhm.
so if I gave a high performer or someone gave a high performer a task, two tasks, they would choose the one that made them feel better.
Mm.
And
What would they do with the other one?
Well, if they had a choice between two of the
Oh,
tasks.
if they had a choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they had a choice between two of the tasks, they would choose the one that made them feel better.
What would the
And
low performer do?
we'll just take one that maybe, to get it done or to impress somebody,
Oh,
um, maybe take on both and be spread thin and not do either. So, it's about having really that clarity of decision making, and so I don't know, he talks about this woman, and they're deep diving in with her, and because she's not having satisfaction. She's very accomplished, but she's not having a whole lot of satisfaction.
mhm,
And they start to look at her world, and they realize that she'd never defined what happiness was for her.
mm, mm,
You know what I mean? And
yeah,
because she didn't define it, she wasn't able to create it.
yeah. I think if you're not able to and I think your happiness can change, one thing you think might be what makes you happy, you might accomplish it or you might be in the middle of it. Allow yourself to change what makes you happy, what happiness or success or whatever is for you. It can change, but having that clarity and that vision, I think is very important. Otherwise, we're just here to what? Achieve, achieve, achieve. That's a machine.
A machine, there you go. It's taking the human aspect out of it.
Yeah.
And so, but some people who are very capable, they're very what would we say? They're performing at a really high level. Maybe they're not high performers yet, but they have all of the attributes. Like these, usually we become high performers from what I'm reading so far is by experiencing these breakdowns and then asking greater questions of ourselves, right? So this woman had this aspect, she had this thought in her mind that one day I'll become a better mom. One day I'll have the time to be a better spouse. One day I'll have time to focus on all those things. And so, but really what was happening is that she had lack of clarity around the qualities that she wanted to be present in her relationship.
Mhm.
And this is one of the greatest exercises I've done. And I have conversations with my guy friends, and Rosie and I are going on 20 years now, 20th year anniversary. It's really exciting. And I remember early on when we were having the same difficulty, I pulled out a piece of paper and I said, Rosie, just tell me, like, what are the things that are really going to amp you up and juice you up about our relationship and how you want me to show up? Because how we're going about it's not working. So, how would we like to curate this experience? And how can we become intentional about it?
Mhm.
Is extremely helpful, right? We talked about that in the car today while we were out for lunch. And I said, I remember the time where it all fell into place. And that was one of the days where, because we were talking about relationship and how to be in relationship, and some of our friends that are wanting to be like, what does one sex look for in the other, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I remember when I was single, I knew I maybe had an idea of what I wanted in a in a female, right? But it was after I got married and got with Rosie that I started asking the question, what does Rosie want specifically? And she said, you know what? That's so fascinating because, and she studies human behavior. So she was talking about how male and females, like we may have textbook or, uh, put everything in a textbook, like women do this, men do that, men behave this way, women behave that way.
Mhm.
But I was at that moment looking for what qualities do I want in Rosie, and then also what qualities do I want in myself?
Yeah.
Because that's something I can't control. But ultimately, I think we can bring out the best in other people if we work on it.
No, I like that, and I like the fact that, if we're take a spouse out of it, even like your kid, right? You have all of these books on parenting and all of these different ways that you can parent, but even studies with siblings, you can't parent two kids the same because every individual is different. And so to be able to look at the other person and think, number one, what how do they want to be, in this instance, parented, right? Or what needs can we fulfill through them? Getting that clarity on that. I mean, I think that's a game changer. That's a clarity, finding clarity on another human being.
Yeah.
The world is your oyster. Then possibilities open up, and you can help them further. You can, in sales, you can sell them something, right? Like it's in relationships for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said to myself, I said, I'll be all talk and no walk if I just come out here and talk about all this today and then don't do it. So there's some really interactive questions that I could take back. I was planning on spending a little time with Deep
Mhm.
and saying, you know, what are some of the aspects of yourself that you want to experience or want to see fulfilled? And
Mhm.
maybe with Rosie, maybe we can do it as a team.
Mhm.
But once we develop that level of clarity, now we know how to cater towards one another.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I did. I did take a step towards that direction.
Mhm.
I wrote down everyone's names. And matter of fact, it's Rosie, Deep, and Bree. And
Mhm.
then it's like 30, 40 other people, right? So like you're like top three.
Special.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So next to y'all's names, I've written out what it is that I can intentionally create in our relationship.
Mhm.
And so Rosie comes up here and she's like, "What's all this?" She's like, "That's a huge to-do list," because it's on my whiteboard. And she has a way of making fun of me, right? But I did it not as a like, okay, now I gotta go achieve that. But I was like, okay, what would it look like if I put it out in front of me? And then I can start to tweak it.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
so
even just creating that vision, or creating not a to-do list, but you're throwing it out there. It's interesting how the universe throws things back to you and creates and opens up possibilities for you when you create that vision.
mhm.
Me and my friend were in the car the other day, and we have a little joke between us that we find little breadcrumbs that are like leading us to where we want to be.
Ah,
And in one day, we found like 6 breadcrumbs, and we're like, and then I thought, "Are we just thinking that everything is a breadcrumb, meaning we're supposed to be here?" And I'm like, "Okay, maybe this is just our mind. We're looking for it because we said it out loud, you know?
so your breadcrumbs as in, like, you said this word and now you're seeing it somewhere.
Or like we're like, "Oh, we're supposed to be doing this because this happened," or, or we're like, "Oh, this we were just talking about something, and then we see that there." We're like, "Oh, we were supposed to be talking about that. It's a breadcrumb."
Okay, breadcrumb. I like the word breadcrumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like to me, you're using it in a very playful way, and it's actually creating more experience.
Yeah. 100%.
Would you like to know which 3 words I had written for you?
Oh, yes, please, please, please.
Okay, I don't so I have respect for the first 3 relationships, and matter of fact, for several more, because in the book, Brendan says that, after interviewing so many married couples that have been married 50 years or more, he found that respect was the number 1 word that kept showing up.
Mm,
Do
mhm.
we have respect for one another? And so I have, respect, responsive, because I was like, sometimes I'll check Slack and I'll be like, "Damn, I wanna get to it faster," you know? So responsive, and, the 3rd one is integral. I don't know, integral?
Integral?
I don't know what I might have been thinking in the moment there, but that word, now that I'm hearing it, I'm like, "Don't I have a better word than integral?" So
I like it. That means we are like a puzzle piece. We're an integral part of each other, and, without that one puzzle piece, it's not complete.
yeah, thank you for saying that. That actually makes me feel better. Uh, for Rosie, I had respect, care, and interested,
Ooh, uh-huh.
'cause
What
I
about
can't
for deep?
for deep, I had, respect, listen, and ins inspiration. So
Oh, that's
or,
awesome.
to be inspired by him, because I think listen, he's the only one I have. that says listen. I don't know what that's about, right?
Mm,
But
that's good though. He's a I don't wanna say kid because he's a young man now, but he has so much wisdom, and I think I don't know how it was for you growing up, but I one thing I feel like all kids go through is they don't feel like they're being heard or listened to by their parents,
yeah,
and the fact that you're recognizing and saying, "Listen," I think that that is amazing because I think if we can actually our kids are smart and they're humans, you know, they're not just a kid, you know, they're a human being and to be able to listen to them, they have good ideas, they have good insights that maybe we wouldn't think because we're jaded from life
yeah.
and they're not.
That's so interesting that you say that because the other day I saw a little girl in the coffee shop, and she must have been 2 years old, maybe. I don't have a good gauge for that. But she goes, Rosie was wearing something, and she goes, pockets, pockets. And
Mm,
because Rosie had her hands in her pockets, and the dad goes, well, she's been really intrigued or interested in pockets. And I said, and I went away from that conversation thinking, this is, if allowed, right? Or created the space for or nurtured, this is our next whatever designer. Like she's probably thinking about design
yeah,
in a very genius way,
yeah.
right? And if we really tap into that, there's so much we can get from it. And to just like to tie it in a bow, I really think why I chose Listen for Deep is because he's 14 now, and everything's a joke with him, and sometimes it's a little unnerving, right? Every is so unnerving because I'll be in a serious conversation with Rosie and we're planning on, whatever. And then he'll be like, ha ha, hee hee. And it's like, not everything's a joke. Like, that's so dull and boring. So I had to like bring it back in, you know? How
Dude,
do
but,
I,
maybe it is funny.
yeah, it is funny, right? Because life is meant to be taken lightly. We're not here forever.
Yeah.
It's a healthy reframe for me. And then also in those moments, I'm like, look, this is really precious, and it's not around forever when he grows up and he moves out or whatever happens. um, I need to indulge in these moments now, no matter how irritating he might seem to me in the moment.
Oh, I needed this today, Roger. Thank you for that. I need to listen to my kid.
Yeah, there you go.
She irritates me like nobody's
Really.
business. Oh, I love her dearly, but my lord.
Yeah, yeah,
And I need to do better at that. So
yeah.
this
And
was
it's so funny. I was sitting in the sauna the other day at the gym, and there's a man with his 13-year-old son, and I was listening to the conversation, and it was just like, man, that dad doesn't want to be in that conversation with that 14-year-old.
mm,
And he's just like real dry with his responses,
mhm,
short,
mm,
and the kid's trying his hardest to engage his dad. And but it was kind of really eye-opening for me to see that that's a version of me. Like
that it could be
even
there.
if it's 1%, right?
Yeah,
It's still there.
it could be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without the clarity,
Yeah, without the clarity.
it could be there.
And so, guys, with that, we want to thank our sponsor for sure, River Real Estate. If you think about buying, selling, investing in real estate, or doing anything else that's outside of those three, I can't imagine what that would be. But if there's something that you want to do outside of those three things with real estate, we could probably help you out. And so just give us a call. You have our phone numbers down here. But more than anything, I think we are going to get the most out of our relationships and the people that we're around when we raise the bar and we have great conversations that cause all of us to grow together,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And on that note, I was speaking with my brother-in-law's parents who'd been married for 50 years. And
Wow.
I asked them, I said, what is y'all's secret? And they said, have fun. That was the simplest out of all the advice I've gotten over the years from people and who've been married for several years. I always make a point to ask. I thought that was the best response I've had so far.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun.
All your habits will fall in place if you're having fun.
Yeah. And your habits can be fun.
That's actually what I took away them that's what I took away from this entire book, is that if you're miserable, then good luck, like, maintaining those habits. They're not gonna speak to you, you know?
Roger, you said something interesting right before the call. You mentioned like what do we think about when we think of habits? You want to touch base on that? I liked that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, so, I wanna know your thought. Did you wanna know what I thought about habits or the word habits?
Yeah. I'll tell you my thought too.
Okay, okay. So for me, habits can mean one of two things. One, it's like, oh boy, work. Like it's a lot to maintain habits. And
Hmm.
then we were being a little vulnerable last week, and I thought it was really cute and funny, right? And but it's true. Like we might think that habits are overbearing, and but on the same side of it, on the other side of that coin, it's like a GPS. You know, once we have the right habits, now we can go into the right direction. And there's a lot of good quotes I'll share on that later.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think like early on, Brittany would think like a habit is associated with like, oh, something you have to do to get to somewhere you want to be.
Okay.
But I think that if you change that in your mind and say, something I get to do to take me one step closer to where I want to be, that was a big mindset shift for me that said, okay, habit isn't like a bad thing. Brushing your teeth is a habit,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and you
Right.
don't think about it. I
Yeah.
think I think I don't know about you, Roger, but for me, the habit of me getting minimum of 8,000 steps, it's starting to become like I don't care what else is going on. If I don't get my steps in, I feel like ugh, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I need to walk.
Mhm.
I have like because my body craves walking now.
Yeah. We were channeling your spirit last night when I completed because Rosie was downtown. She was with friends. And
Mhm.
today, going on that walk, or last night going on that walk, was really inspiring. Like you inspired that because I looked at the steps, the scoreboard, and
Mhm.
it woke that up in me. It was like, okay, no, you need to get out there, and just because Rosie's not with you isn't a good enough excuse, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, so I think, what do you think about what's the element there at work? Is it team? Is it scoreboard? Like, what is it that I don't know if it's true for you. I mean, if you're using the Step app, or where are you getting your motivation to keep that habit going?
I think so I like the app sometimes, but for me, I have a piece of paper on our fridge that I
Okay.
track it, and
Uh,
I think going there and I put a if I hit the steps 8,000, I do an X. If I, do 10 or more, I color it in,
ah,
and it's just become where it's, like, second nature, and then I think I don't even now care about, like, the tracking, it's just automatically there now, but I think that like, my body wants to tell me, "Hey, it's time like, you need to move." Like, you're
responding to that.
yeah, I don't feel right when I'm not hitting the steps. Like, I feel like, "Oh my gosh, like, my body is hurting because it's not walking."
Is there a difference between crossing it and coloring it in, like emotionally, or
I don't know, if I don't hit the 8,000 minimum, I do an underline of it. So, I like for me, it just is to see because my stretch goal is 10 or more. So, to me, it's cool to see, okay, am I hitting the goal consistently? Or like I might miss a day or 2 here. I think in January, I missed like 3 days or 4 days of 8,000. But I was actually tracking this prior to our little January goal, my 8,000. I was not hitting 10,000. Maybe once a month, I would hit 10,000 steps
same, before the goal setting, right?
before the goal setting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hitting 10,000 almost all the time. It's pretty rare that I'm hitting only between 8 and 10.
Yeah, I'd be embarrassed to share what I had before the goal setting. Like I can't believe someone could be that low active, you know. But what was important to me was other things, and I didn't
Right.
realize my health was being swept under the rug during that time.
Yeah.
So how much I think what you just hit on for me is how much awareness it brings.
Yes.
Having a habit brings awareness.
Awareness. That I like that. Yeah. It brings the awareness.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think we'd do a big injustice here if we didn't talk about the 6 habits, like if I did just go over the 6 habits in a general format. And because we did say this is a deep dive, so I want the viewers to really get that feeling that we went the extra mile on this one. But again, this is really dense, and I think we could talk about high performance habits probably for the rest of the year and
I
still.
was gonna say it could take a while.
It could take a while. It could take a while. So I definitely appreciate you saying that. So let's take a look at the 6 habits, right?
Yeah.
And perhaps I can, let me see if I have them up here, and then we can just go through them real quick. Okay. All right. So number 1 is seek clarity. That's really simple. All of these are really simple, and what they sound like is exactly what they are. So the more clear we are on, and we've heard the phrase why, and a lot of people immediately, attach that to the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And if you haven't read it, it's a good book. And for those people that don't like the book, maybe there's some people out there like that, or they feel like it's really cliche. I think seeking clarity isn't just asking yourself why, but it's going a few levels deep. It's taking a pen and paper out and really writing out what it is that you imagine. And I love what Brendan says about that. He says, like you'll just create all of the things. Like what happens is here. Okay, let me see if I can find this quote here. Let's see. Okay. Basically, he just says that it'll happen on accident. Like whatever emotions, if we don't set those intentions in place, then it'll just happen randomly, and we won't get to pick our feelings. If you pick your feelings, if you say, okay, like, and I'm gonna do this, I'll report back. Is basically before you start your day, write out all of the emotions you want to experience,
Mm.
so that not just any general emotion is making its way into your day, right? So if I'm feeling like I want to be collaborative, well, when I'm sitting down with my spouse or I'm sitting down in our team meeting and I'm not being collaborative, feeling overwhelmed or bored or whatever, well, that's not the emotion I was wanting to create. Now I could be intentional and say, hey, well, what about that spirit of collaboration, right? That's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to share before I go to the second one?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Generate energy. This one has been really big to me over the last 48 hours. And it's those things that you want to use to fill your cup, like exercising, getting your steps in. Those are things that are building up the energy. So when you sit down to do your work, you can go, you can cut through like a hot knife through butter, right? Really effortless and easy, and you're enjoying it. So, like, some people will go to church on Sundays, or they will do stuff, and that builds their spirit up. And so when they get back in front of their desk, those things that seem monumental are actually really small, and we can easily tackle them at that point. So I really like this, and for me, it's sitting in a dry sauna and then doing the cold plunge, which consult with the doctor before you do that. We have a really close
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. That may not be right. That might not be for you, but I feel like I walked out of the spa after spending 3 or 4 hours at the gym and sitting in the steam room and that sort of thing, right? So, what is it that fills your cup, and do more of that? Might be one-on-one. I did a one-on-one with Deep this weekend. We went to a food truck. That was a lot of fun. So, it just fills my cup.
Yeah.
Raise necessity. Raising necessity. I don't know about you, Bree, but when we get to coffee social, and the closer we get to coffee social, we want to make sure that everybody's got a lot of value that's attended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is raising the necessity, because we got a peer group that's counting on us for some really good golden nuggets. and rising to the occasion for them
Yeah.
is what that's about.
Yeah.
And being here. This is another way to raise necessity. So, like, how can we pour back into our community? What can we do? What golden nuggets can we provide? Number 4, increase productivity. Again, that goes back into knowing exactly what you want. And let me see here. And so he talks about interruptions and multitasking and all those things lower productivity, and we lose distractions lower our productivity by 20%. So when you sit down in front of your task, how many times have we been there before, right? You have a task, you're doing it, and you're like, well, let me just check this email.
Oh, yeah.
And then going back to that task.
It's so much harder.
is
I
so-
used to be the person who said, I can multitask. That's so silly to think people can't multitask.
Mhm.
Then I stopped multitasking and started, well, it took me a very long time. Let me not just say I just stopped. I still struggle, okay?
Yeah.
It is something I work on every day, but I have found that when I focus on one thing, I can actually do that one thing so much quicker.
Mhm.
If I don't have the phone, I don't look at the email, you time block it, and it's amazing how much you can get done without a distraction.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
And
crazy.
and so, like, you know what really is interesting to me, Bree, is how number 3 is raising necessity, and number 4 is increasing productivity. They're so closely attached.
Mhm.
And so raising necessity is a personal habit, whereas increasing productivity is a social habit. So the first 3 habits are categorized as a self transformation, and the other 3 are relationally transforming.
Mm.
So increasing productivity means reaching out to somebody and asking for help, or reaching out to somebody and allowing them to be an asset for you, you
Yeah.
know? Like if someone reaches out to you and says, "Hey, Bree, help me out," versus trying to do it all on their own and not getting anywhere.
I think I mean, I hate to tie everything back to real estate, but that's what we do and what we love. And our most successful investors have always reached out to us. They have their regular full-time jobs, and to be able to help them to acquire more real estate and grow their wealth through acquisition of multiple properties. They wouldn't be able to do that necessarily. They've told us that, hey, I wouldn't be able to have acquired that much property without the help of y'all.
That's phenomenal. And, I think you're speaking about exactly the way they're mentioning it. Some of the things, well, how do you feel like some people could increase the habit? Or I want to take a step back. So I looked at these 6 habits
Mhm.
and I said, create clarity. I said, what can I do in a day that allows me to create clarity? And I mentioned the habits that I already have in place that are
Mhm.
allowing me to create clarity
Mhm.
or to generate energy or raise necessity. Now, under increased productivity specifically, and being that it's a social transformation, that means it requires one other person, one or more people, right? How can people increase their productivity with you specifically?
Well,
What can they kind of incorporate in their day?
I would say that the easiest and the quickest habit for them to increase productivity would be to look at our weekly investment sheet that we send out. That sheet is packed full of, number 1, great opportunities, number 2, all the data you would need. But even if you didn't want to see the data, you know that those are hand-picked properties. These are already good investments that have been vetted by us, and we're just showing you the numbers in that.
That's impressive. And you know who else is increasing their productivity right now?
Everyone watching this?
I just saw somebody, well, that for sure. I just saw somebody bringing DoorDash here. I'm about to go beat up my son because he knows I'm busy,
Uh,
and he's gonna get away with it. I don't know how he gets away with that.
He loves to DoorDash. I need to get on that account too. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. You know how expensive that is, and so he's increasing his productivity by having someone else, bring food to him. And I just think like it's ridiculous. I can't wait till he has his driver's license. It'll be cheaper than DoorDash.
I was gonna say, yeah, way cheap. Hey, even with the insurance, it'll be cheaper than
It'll be cheaper than DoorDash, yeah. But I could take a page out of his book for sure because I love grocery shopping. I love picking out the food that I'm going to eat. But it's thoughts like these, right? Like, how do I increase productivity? Well, if I end up going grocery shopping, perhaps I'm putting something else on the back burner that needs to get done and I can't be available. And now there's a little dysfunction in my world. And there's a trade-off. I speak to people who are really passionate about food and they say, I could never do that. I need to go to the grocery store. I'll just go down there and I want to see and feel what I'm eating. And so, yes, true. And then,
I think it's hard. I love to grocery shop too.
yeah. How do you do it,
I know. One of my friends hates grocery shopping. She loves what's it called? Curbside.
Oh, curbside.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Have you done curbside?
I've done it a few times. We actually did it with one of our client events. We did some curbside for some things.
Okay. I've never done curbside, but I'm really, getting to that point of really starting to look into it. Because it's probably better than having it delivered and then I can still go pick it up on my way to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got two last ones, and one is developing influence. Man, that helps in so many regards. You want your kid to do something, you can actually trick them into doing it when you use influence, right?
Yeah.
Reverse psychology is one that we've all used on our kids. And how's that working, Bree? You use a little reverse psychology?
I don't know. My daughter is 4, almost 5. And I will say, this chick, I don't know that we have much influence over her. Okay.
She's my niece, obviously.
What she said, she's very quick. Like Chris was trying to help her with spelling and, showing her some stuff. And he was like, okay, let's do this. We're doing it on a little board. And she said, Daddy, you're not a teacher. You can't help me.
Nice.
It's like, okay, Ella. I think
where do I start?
Garden. I know, like this is already starting. You're 4 years old. Parents are supposed to be like your everything, your BFF. Are you 14 or 4? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So we probably you're gonna need to go super advanced, super quick, and read a lot of books on influence and report back to us and let us know how it goes.
I'll keep you posted.
Keep me posted. And then there's the last one, guys, is demonstrating courage. And you can't demonstrate it to yourself. You have to demonstrate it to someone else. And here he talks about making your goals public, sharing them with others. And he says, like, demonstrating courage, people who are high achievers or high performers will make their goals public. They don't have a problem with it. It comes really easy to them. They're like, I'm doing this because it's a 75% reduction or whatever, right? Like they'll make it known. They don't think they're demonstrating courage. They don't think they're making public. It's just a part of who they are. And we've provided 44 minutes and 55 seconds of value today, huh?
That went quick.
That went quick, yeah. I didn't know we'd have this much fun. Maybe this is the new format. We kick Rosie off the show. What do you think?
Never.
I don't have your vote, huh?
I'm like, we're a triangle.
Yeah, exactly. So Bree, we got some exciting things happening this week. We got Coffee Social on Friday. Been a huge hit amongst. These are all high performers. I can guarantee you in the room. These are people who are thinking light years ahead, fast and on their toes. What's been your experience, and why do you think people should come join us?
I mean, to me, honestly, I know Coffee Socials are on Friday, and people might think it's my favorite part of the week because it's a Friday, but no, it's only because we get to learn and grow and show up together. Iron sharpens iron, and I feel that number one, we're providing value, but number two, we're learning together, growing together. And I don't know, I always leave feeling excited, happy, inspired. And I don't know, I found like we found our tribe. These are our people,
Thank you for saying that, because I have my friend John Zeich, and he repeatedly will ask me, he'll stop me and say, Raj, like, what's in it for you? Why are you doing all of this? And it's like no matter what I say, he's like he's like, I don't know. I don't know, like what, like you really are rising to the occasion. You're coming, you're putting this on, you're bringing community together. And I would love to know what it is for you, but for me, it's definitely 100% about that, about getting an opportunity to do those last three social aspects of
Mm.
growth, which is developing influence, demonstrating courage, and increasing productivity. Uh, it's about working well with others, you
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But that's like a really canned response going over those last three. But I think it fulfills me. It fulfills my being, you know.
Well, I think, at the beginning, we talked about what was satisfaction. It was passion,
Mhm.
growth, and what was the last one?
Man,
Connect no,
love.
passion, growth, and
Passion, growth, and contribution.
there we go.
Yeah.
I think that to me, that just said it all. Where we're passionate about what we do. The
Mhm.
growth is there because we're learning and growing together, and contribution, that's how we give back, is to help others in that realm of what we know so much about.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for sharing that. On a closing note, I do want to say this, guys, that having a vision of the future and really taking into consideration what we want out of life, like vision boards are amazing. Bree, I'm talking to high performers and I'm asking them, do they have a vision board? Because a part of me really thought there's something gimmicky about this, you know, cutting photos out of magazines and posting them on a board. But more and more I'm talking to these high performers, they're like, yes, you don't understand. Articulate what it is that you want. And so, what I'll invite everybody today is I'll invite everyone to cast a vision that goes beyond their current circumstances.
Mm.
And so, if you haven't yet thought about what it means to own more real estate or grow your wealth, I invite everybody to cast that vision. Really, and it doesn't have to be based on what your uh, current situation is. And work well with others, and you can get so much further with the help of people that care about you.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. And until then, join us on Coffee Social Friday. We're going to be at,
Easy Tiger at the link.
there you go, and 9:30 to 11. So we look forward to seeing you, and have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.